If you would like a free newsletter on this or other subjects, just give us a call at Christian Answers. The phone number is area code 512-218-8022. That's 512-218-8022. Or you could email us at cdebater@aol.com. That's cdebater@aol.com. Thank you.
Welcome to Pilgrim Publications Presents. I'm Larry Wessels, your co-host, and we're going to present to you, I think, a very fascinating program tonight. Many of you who are familiar with Pilgrim Publications know that our organization is one of the world's leading publishers of the works of Charles Haddon Spurgeon. And in case you're not familiar with who Charles Haddon Spurgeon is, I'm going to have my co-host and director of Pilgrim Publications, Bob L. Ross, explain to you exactly who this man is and what he has done. Bob, our show tonight is on Spurgeon's England, and I'd like you to maybe inform people a little bit, give them a little background on who Spurgeon is.
Larry, I had the opportunity to go to England for the first time back in February of 1996. And I got to see Spurgeon up close in the sense that I got acquainted with the place where he was born, where he was raised, where he ministered, and many of those places are very much unchanged from what they were in the time of Spurgeon. And C.H. Spurgeon was born in Kelvedon in Essex in the northwest area, away from London at any rate. And in that area, he spent most of his early years around Cambridge and generally in that particular vicinity of England. Later moved to London, became a great preacher there at Metropolitan Tabernacle, which he pastored for many years, and he's buried there in London at Norwood Cemetery. I got to visit his tomb, see where he's buried, visited the Spurgeon's College in that same area, which is still in operation today. And his sermons are still alive as they've been ever since he started publishing them in 1855, and we believe that they'll probably be alive when the Lord returns, the way that things are going. We're now out on the internet with a lot of Spurgeon's sermons there, and of course we have the big sermon set, the books themselves, and this is the ministry we've been devoted to for so many years, and which is reaching many around the world who are interested in reading Spurgeon's sermons, and they're inspirational, especially to preachers. Get a lot of letters from pastors and ministers and evangelists and colleges and students, and it's just been a great blessing to work in this field for so many years, and finally at last to get to take this trip to England back in February and visit these places associated with Spurgeon.
What we're talking about here when we're talking about C.H. Spurgeon, Charles Haddon Spurgeon, is a preacher that lived in the 19th century and apparently had a lot of works done, a lot of books written, a lot of preaching, and shall we say maybe even was responsible for some sort of revival of sorts in England.
Well, for those who know absolutely nothing about Spurgeon, I brought this video by Ken Conley with me, and it's the best thing I've ever seen on Spurgeon. Ken Conley is a personal friend of mine. I've known him for many years, and he went to England and visited a lot of these places while he was filming this, filming right on the spot, and he tells the story of Spurgeon's ministry in London from 1855 to 1892 when he died. And if they would like to have this video, well, they can get in touch with us about it. And otherwise, we have lots of little pieces of literature that explain in brief who Spurgeon was, when he ministered, what the main characteristics of his life and the effects of his ministry were. I myself wrote a little book called the Pictorial Biography of Spurgeon, which has been helpful to educate people concerning C.A. Spurgeon. And then, of course, there's the big 4-volume autobiography of Spurgeon, which we brought out not too many years ago. But for those who like to just kind of do it the easy way, this is almost an hour, and it's the best video I've ever seen anyone do on the life of Spurgeon, and that includes the film that was made by the British Broadcasting Company, which we've had for about 20-something years and shown all over the country. And Ken is a real expert at doing videos. He can keep your attention. A lot of people don't like history and biographical type videos, but I think Ken Connolly makes you want to keep watching, and he really gives you an education in the life of Spurgeon here.
All right. Now, to get to the main subject of our broadcast, you went to England, Spurgeon's homeland, and basically how long were you there?
Well, we were there for 2 weeks. I went with a close friend of mine, Boxley Boggs, who is a director of UFM Missions, one of the, not the director, but one of the leaders of that organization located up in the Philadelphia area. And Boxley and I have been friends for many, many years, going back to the early 60s, and we both have a great admiration for Spurgeon. And we went over there in February and were able to have 2 weeks primarily devoted to visiting the historical scenes that identify with the life of Spurgeon. We got to see his birthplace. The house is still there, very much like it was just years ago when Spurgeon was born. And we got to see the old church where he was converted, very much like it was back in those days. We saw the creek or the river where he was baptized, back off out just in a farmland. And the amazing thing about all these places where we visited, it's almost undisturbed by the passing of time. You know, a lot of things, they become commercialized. I was noting about Shakespeare. In Stratford-on-Avon, everything is commercialized. Money, money, money. And you kind of lose a sense of a touch of history there. And but with Spurgeon, you don't have to pay admission to get in to see his house, or to get into where he was converted, or to get into where he was baptized. You don't have to go through long lines, standing in line, waiting to see something. And like you do at so many of these historical places have been commercialized. And the thing about it was that I was so impressed with the fact that although it's been over 100 years, 150 years in some instances, these places, Spurgeon was born in 1834, you go to these places and you're unhampered by the commercialism of having that historical connection back to that period of time. And we went to the place where he first pastored, the little town of Waterbeach. And although there's been a great deal of time passed since Spurgeon was pastor there, you still get a sense of that touch of the time of Spurgeon, because it's not changed a whole lot by the passing of the years. And just so many things like that that were moving to me in a spiritual sense, as contrasted to, say, going to London or some of the other places where the tourists usually go, and you've got all the commercialism and all the emphasis on souvenirs and this, that, and the other that's associated with that kind of interest. And with Spurgeon, I went to his grandfather's tomb, for example, and with my own foot, I raked off the dirt and silt that had covered over the inscription of his grandfather's tomb. And that was quite interesting to me, that here I was coming from America, excuse me, and being able to rediscover Spurgeon's grandfather's tomb, not his tomb, but the slab where he was buried, and to uncover the inscription on that. And so I was really blessed by the fact that I was at last, after so many years of longing and wanting and almost pleading that I might have the opportunity to go over there and see these places, I at last got to see them and to have some touch of the history there with the times of Spurgeon.
Outstanding. Well, I think what we ought to do now for our viewers is go to some of the footage that you took while you were in England. And of course, I'll go with my notes here as we reference this. And what I'll do is I'll mention each item, and I'd like to have you say a few brief comments about it.
Okay.
And then we'll go to the clip, and then we'll just go back and forth that way. We'll go from clip to clip, but before each clip, we'll have you make a few comments on what the viewers are about to see.
Okay, Larry.
And then we'll see what we come up with. So what we're about to see is an interview with the foremost scholar on Spurgeon in the world. And any other comment before we go to the clip?
Well, I'll just say that Eric Hayden has been a dear friend of ours for many years, and this was my first opportunity to see him face to face and to talk to him. And I only wish I had maybe hours upon hours to spend with him, but he's been ill, and I didn't want to be an imposition upon him and his wife in that respect. And so we had a great opportunity here, and I appreciate his inviting us into his home and having us there at the time we were there, because Eric has been ill, and whereas it may not reflect itself in this film, certainly I appreciate the fact that we were taken in despite the conditions that would have been more comfortable for him.
All right. Okay, with that said, we'll go to the clip.
So here's Brother and Sister Hayden along with Bob. Brother Eric Hayden, along with Bob Ross. Eric, what have you there?
Well, I have 3 of the original penny sermons, which were the ones that were printed and distributed by C.H. Spurgeon before the annual volumes. I've got one that's dated 1877, 1887.
This one, by the way, is number 1385, Jesus Interceding for Transgressors.
That's right. And this one is God the Wonder Worker. And you see, they have no cover on. But after he died, they continued printing them. And to help pay for them, they had these covers with all kinds of advertisements for all kinds of aches and pains
Eric,
of the body.
I want to read this line here to give the viewers some idea of when this was done during the process of time. It says, published on Thursday.
Yep.
This was September the 8th, 1887. The other one was November 29th, 1887, by Passmore and Alabaster, Pastor Noster Buildings, and may be had at all booksellers. And this was a weekly habit.
Yes, he preached them Sunday morning and they came out by Thursday.
And how many consecutive years of time did this?
Right until his death. They began at New Park Street before the Metropolitan Tabernacle was built, and they carried on till his death, and then afterwards, like this one.
Now I notice you have staples through this, but originally they were just loosely bound, or?
No, they had staples.
Staples?
Yes, but
They were in the center.
you
Right.
see that they were in the center
Okay.
and they rusted and fell out.
Yeah. And there was 3,541, I think, numbered items
Yes,
in this
And-
series, and that went on even after he died.
yes, and he reckoned that every one of these was a soul winner.
Uh-huh.
Some of them he heard of 20 people being saved through one sermon.
And these are your own, out of your own collection of Spurgeon materials. These are such old items, one wonders how you became the heir of these.
They were my grandfather's, who was a member at Spurgeon's Tabernacle, and he passed them on to my father, and then they came to me.
Who baptized your grandfather?
That I couldn't say, because he came from Essex, Spurgeon country, came to London to work, and attended Spurgeon's Tabernacle.
But Spurgeon didn't do all the baptizing.
Oh, no, no.
He had assistants.
That's right, yes. Sometimes his brother, James Archer Spurgeon.
And what about, I wonder about his secretary, Mr. Harrell.
For baptizing?
Well, he was a minister too.
Yes.
I just wondered if he helped Spurgeon with any of that.
No, I think it was mainly the evangelists like Manton Smith and Fullerton.
And another man's name that worked with Spurgeon, Mr. Pike.
Yes, Holden Pike.
He worked with him on the Sword and Trowel magazine.
That's right. And of course he published biography and many other books about Spurgeon.
And then those men who were professors at the college, were they also pastors, or did they work with Spurgeon?
Usually they were pastors as well.
Like George Rogers?
Yes, yes.
And Marchant?
That's right.
And Ferguson?
Yes. Gorson?
Yeah. And, but James Spurgeon was kind of his right-hand man.
Right-hand man,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And over here is Mrs. Hayden, and she's been a faithful helpmeet, to use the Bible word, for Eric all these years.
This crockery was made to raise money for the building of the first tabernacle. We found it in an old cupboard, and it was given to us, permission was given to us.
For the second tabernacle.
That's 50,
Yeah.
and that's what I've
It's
got here.
100. Worth 250.
Oh, that's 100?
Yeah, it's a pound.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, the pound. This. And
Yeah.
the Queen's on all of it.
Most of them.
Very rarely you can get a 2-pound one, can't you, these days?
On very odd
hard-
occasions.
hardly
It
ever
is.
see them.
It's, what's the word? You can spend it, but you don't often get them.
Are you taping this?
That's all we've got.
All right, we're back, and that was a fascinating interview. Bob?
And we went to Bedford and saw some of the artifacts and memorabilia associated with the famous John Bunyan, who wrote Pilgrim's Progress. And by the way, he was one of Spurgeon's favorite authors, and that was one of Spurgeon's favorite books. And then we went on down to London to visit Metropolitan Tabernacle, which was Spurgeon's church. We are in the city of Bedford in England, and this is a statue that was erected in memory of John Bunyan in 1874. Bunyan actually was born south of here in 1628, died in 1688. He spent many years in prison here because of the laws passed by the king that he would not obey, that violated the principles of religious freedom which he wanted to exercise by way of preaching the gospel. And you can appreciate the severity that Bunyan must have suffered in prison, in a dungeon-type prison, unless you're here in weather like that we're in this February the 19th, 1996, because the wind is severely cold.
Site of John Bunyan's cottage here in Bedford. This church was founded in the 1600s and was pastored by John Bunyan. This new building was erected a couple of hundred years later in the 1800s, but it's the John Bunyan Meeting House here in Bedford, England. cemetery in the churchyard. Very beautiful little cemetery. This cold, wintry day in Bedford. This bridge was built in 1813, and I'm standing on the site that John Bunyan was imprisoned on. We're right in the center of downtown Bedford, England. And on this site stood the jail in which John Bunyan was imprisoned, a plaque of which we have here.
This is the bridge where the jail was located. John Bunyan spent years in prison here 2 different times. And his writing of so many books took place in the jail. At least part of the things he wrote took place while he was in jail.
Hammer and chisel, over 100 years ago. City slickers. This is your box. Welcome to Birthplace Bank. Thank you. So that new line out for you. Happy to.
We are at the Tabernacle.
One way here, do we? We are at Metropolitan Tabernacle in London. The current one, Dr. Peter Masters, is the minister here. And there's both a lower level for seating. It looks like they have about 24 long rows of seats, and then there's balcony on either side and in the rear. So there's a good sized seating capacity here for the church. They have a very attractive and thriving bookshop right behind the pulpit area here. And this is a very nice modern looking building on the inside. Now back of us, as we're filming this, is the original front, what's called the facade of the tabernacle. And there's not much activity there. In fact, the gates are locked to the entrance of that area, so we had to come around to the rear of the building. This is the preaching desk that C.H. Spurgeon used at Metropolitan Tabernacle. And there's a clock that's placed inside the right side of the pulpit. And this is very beautiful and sturdy wood that it was made of. So if you've seen pictures of Spurgeon standing on the rostrum, this was the pulpit behind which he was delivering the Word of God.
Not the chair.
Was this what?
I can show was from the late year and Thomas Spurgeon. This was John Buell's chair. John Buell's chair.
It's called the bus, but there's a craft.
Here we have the chair that belonged to John Gill.
Sculptural.
This one's very, very heavy. If you move this one, it's as much as two people can do to lift in that solid marble. That. After this suite, you have two chairs. That's what's there.
Benjamin Keach.
Sufficient water to put the fire out. So there were certain things that were managed to were saved.
Those
These, yes.
are all things.
Yes. Yes. These were Spurgeon ones.
This was
Spurgeon. Computer. And again, this is. Okay, here we are. Smile. This is quite a lot of fun. This is £2,500.
Should be read.
Well, people standing waiting for a train. It's not spiritual, it's challenging messages which help people.
The subway?
Well, we call it the tube, but the underground stations, yes.
John was over there, and all the riders.
But we regularly get people into
Millions of people see this. It's a good way to spread the gospel. Quick shot.
But as I say, it's expensive. It
Oh, well,
costs
yeah.
£2,500 a month.
I want to get a picture.
Okay, Bob, the viewers just saw some of the action, you might say, in England.
Larry, that building there, Metropolitan Tabernacle, the only thing that was left after the Nazis bombed in London was that front, what's called the portico or the facade, and that's the original. And everything else, except for the basement part of that building, was rebuilt. And we in London went to several places associated with Spurgeon. One of the most interesting places was the cemetery, Norwood Cemetery, and as we drove down through there, we went past it, and in the accident of going by it, we went on down to a place where Spurgeon's brother had pastored a church. So we got to see the church where Spurgeon's brother had pastored. Then the bus turned around and came back, and we got out and went out to the cemetery and visited Spurgeon's tomb. Mrs. Spurgeon is buried there with him. And you'll notice it is very, very cold this day, and we were out there, and I had on about 5 coverings of protection, and still I was freezing to death. But this was one of the most interesting parts of the trip, because if you'll look at this picture of the tomb, you'll see a little twig growing out of the left side, and eventually I cut that little twig off, and I started to throw it away, and I said, wait a minute, here's a little twig growing out of this concrete tomb. I said, this is a parable of how Spurgeon's sermons, although he's dead, they're still putting out life. So Larry, I didn't bring it with me, but I've got that little twig back home, and I wrote a little article. I'll be glad to send it to our viewers, called The Parable of the Spurgeon Twig. And the story is that as the twig grows out of the concrete there at Spurgeon's tomb, so his sermons are putting out life still. Although he's dead, he speaks. And I stuck my head into the tomb. There was a little opening there, and I said, hello, Mr. Spurgeon. But this was one of the most interesting parts of the trip, visiting where Spurgeon was buried.
All right. Okay, with that, let's take a look.
The upper deck of a bus. On our way to visit the tomb of C.H. Spurgeon.
If we had the car, we could have driven right up.
Norwood Cemetery.
Really? Knock this loose. Yeah, look this way. Cracked it here. Okay. What? The bomb's hit on the roof here? Yeah. This was loose. I got a picture of it. Pictures were taken of it. It was loose. Put this back. Get up on the side there and take the picture of it.
Why don't they just stand on it?
Hey man, it's just stone, and Spurgeon wouldn't care. He's not in there, it's just his bones. Chapter 4 and verse 7, you want me to read it?
Yeah.
It says, I have fought a good fight, I have finished my course, I have kept the faith, henceforth there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but unto all them also that love his appearing. That's 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 and 8.
Looking from the backside at that which was said regarding his wife Susanna.
Susanna's in there with him. Hey, Mr. Spurgeon, are you in there?
Custodian to open that to get Spurgeon's.
Here's the tabernacle from Elephant and Castle Station. Riding by it here. Quite the impressive sight. Well, we're here on Piccadilly Circus in London. This 20th of February. Lo and behold, here is Pilgrim Publications director walking along looking at the stuff.
Italy.
Hello? Hello, hello.
One to step.
The Royal Agricultural Hall is now a business designed exposition center.
Basically just goes on to how they purchased the building.
For the books we publish, we use a paper jacket like this. We have a picture of this building.
Business Exposition Center, the site where Spurgeon preached to more than 20,000 people back in the 1860s. This building was built in 1861 to 1860. Here we are at what used to be the front of the Royal Agricultural Hall, now the back. This is the Royal Agricultural Hall as it looked when it was opened, brand new in 1863. And as it looked to C.H. Spurgeon when he preached here to more than 20,000 people. Crossing the River Thames, looking down toward Buckingham Palace and Westminster Abbey.
You get the south for it. Uh-oh, what was that?
Well, we're coming upon Elephant Castle here after having been rear-ended back there. Fortunately, not much damage to our car. This young lady's mother goes to Spurgeon's College. And she's helping us find our way here. We're not far from the college. This is the Crystal Palace Museum.
There's the old ruins down there.
And it was upon this land that the Crystal Palace sat. The ruins are still here. You can see some of the stone that is left.
This is the 20th century Spurgeon's College. This is not the building that was existing when Spurgeon was pastoring at the Tabernacle, but they moved the college out here on the south side and built it here. And this is known as Spurgeon's College, but really I'm not so sure about their continuity of the theology of Spurgeon, because some say that they don't share that theology, but nevertheless, this is the Spurgeon's College of today.
We're in Spurgeon's College now, looking out at a big snowstorm.
And a few times it snows at night.
Some of the grounds here at Spurgeon College. In the distance, we see a statue of the Reverend Spurgeon holding forth the Word of Life.
In the States, trying to get some people interested in this. 3 years ago, we discovered 500, never seen before. These were the longhand notes, which were actually, there's a professional firm, they gave a transcript of Spurgeon's sermon.
Have a picture of this, John.
Sunday morning, February the 9th, in 1890. The handwriting of the firm, the purple is Spurgeon's handwriting. Spurgeon got this late Sunday or Monday, and he went through this transcript and he changed it. This is all his own hand. He changed page after page.
Now, who did the original of this?
A firm piece of paper. Yeah. They then took verbatim the sermon, and they're generally about 40 pages in length. That then went to the printer on Monday, came back from the printers, and this is Spurgeon again, all the way down. He changed all sorts of things. As much as 50% was changed.
Now, is this one sermon?
This is one sermon.
This is the
First
original
edition,
manuscript.
second
This is
edition,
the galley.
the third edition is what the world
Would be the-
knows.
yeah, would be
This
the
is
book.
Spurgeon, you see. And amended
And now this was the one printed by Passmore and Alabaster.
eventually.
A proof.
For 1 penny on the Thursday.
Yeah, a proof of it. That's
This is the
exactly-
first proof. Now with some we've got 3 stages,
Yeah.
and each stage Spurgeon worked on. He did this 3 times every week of his life. He did the 2 sermons on Sunday, the sermon on the Thursday, every week, and he worked on it in this kind of detail. And of course what he was doing sometimes was stylistic. Sometimes he removed whole sections, all that bit's upside down. But we are very excited by this find. And what I'm hoping to do...
And where did you come by this?
Oh, these were in boxes. In fact, I've got one box round here. These were just in boxes that nobody had, like this, you see.
Oh.
And they hadn't been, for years, they've been undisturbed.
Get a picture of this old box.
So,
it's got his name on it.
yeah. Of course, they've got things you find. But within these, the galley proofs were stored, but they're all in random order. So they've been sorted.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Again, built to have it, but it's just now turning it to good. And you see, it's not been. It's just at the moment clipped together. We've got to do something to preserve it. But it's never been. You see, that's never been seen in the printed sermons.
I
final.
I know you know what you're doing, but I just wonder about using paper clips on these.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. You know, we had an archivist with all these bits who's desperately trying to put them together. They shouldn't be clipped. They should be.
Yeah, I would put them into some kind of protective plastic.
Yeah. Well, if we get some, I mean, we go from hand to mouth, but if we get
He
some
did
money,
this
we don't
3
use it.
times a week.
3 times a week, and he went often through 3 processes for each sermon. It's phenomenal, isn't it?
Yes.
He always used this lavender ink.
That's right. And sometimes he draws little diagrams. Sometimes one of them he says, "I'm unwell." He writes at the top. So obviously he was not at all, feeling well, and so he went back to the printers with his a minimum of effort.
That are behind the doors. What are these?
We are here in the Heritage Room of Spurgeon College, enjoying the well-displayed memorabilia from his days of ministry.
I wonder what all these books are.
Unfortunately, on a Wednesday downstairs with the statue. With the statue.
Some autobiography, and Pike's biography, and all kinds of biographies that have been written about Spurgeon. John Spurgeon books, reprints of Morning and Evening, Metropolitan Tabernacle pulpits here. Treasure David. They should have our set somewhere. It may be in the... You see this gentleman. He knows all this. What's the gentleman's name who's in charge here?
Reverend Brown.
Raymond?
Reverend John Brown. What's it? John Brown, anyway.
John Brown.
John and Wilma Brown. His wife comes sometimes in house as well. And he lovingly does all this. It's his comic thing.
Does he enjoy this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he's
It
an
wouldn't be an intrusion if we came back there.
I could as well, I'm quite sure. We can give you a comic directly on the way out, I'm sure. Don't worry, we'll get you another one.
I believe I lost that piece of stationery I had, Buck.
Don't worry, we'll get you another one. Don't worry.
But I had an address on it. I had it sticking in this book and I stuck it in the door. And it blown away.
Chapel of Spurgeon College, where they have daily services for the students and staff. Here we have the side view of the college main building. We are now in Upper Norwood section of London, looking at the very property upon which Spurgeon lived the last 12 years of his life. It was his home called Westwood, with a lovely view out over the city in the distance. Today a school has been built on the property, which we see here.
And the name of the road is Spurgeon Road.
This is located on Spurgeon Road. The school is named for the name of Spurgeon's estate, Westwood, and has a beautiful view of London. Spurgeon moved here in the latter years of his life in hopes that the higher elevation would improve his health. Here we have Queen Elizabeth House, where Spurgeon lived before moving to Norwood, and Westwood was home there. It's on Nightingale Lane.
This is a plaque commemorating Spurgeon living here at this house. And if it's anything like back then what it is today, this was a regular hotel. There's a lot of rooms here. And
here we are in Kelvedon, looking at the house in which C.H. Spurgeon was born. We do have a plaque up here commemorating the event.
you know, we're not supposed to be talking.
Village of Kelvedon, a very typical English village. Right across the street from Spurgeon's home is a produce market. Birthplace of C.H. Spurgeon. Here we have Bob going into the Kelvedon post office to mail cards to all his friends back in the States. Here in Kelvedon, the village in which C.H. Spurgeon was born, back in 1834.
This is the chapel where that Spurgeon was converted. And this was in 1850. And he had left home to go to church at another place, and the snow drove him down this little street, and he went into this little primitive Methodist chapel.
Okay.
On that particular January day, even the preacher could not make it to church. It was so snowbound. So a layman got up and read the scripture, "Look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth." And he addressed Spurgeon and challenged him to look. Spurgeon said that he did look, and that was the day that he found salvation and went away, he said, feeling that he was white as the snow that was falling to the ground. In the United States, we published Spurgeon's books.
We're inside the little church where C.H. Spurgeon was converted. It is now called the Spurgeon Memorial Evangelical Church.
I'll read it if you want to.
They do have a plaque on the wall commemorating the event.
It says, near this spot, on 6 January 1850, Pastor C.H. Spurgeon found peace through Jesus Christ, as described in his own words. Seeking rest and finding none, I stepped within the house of God and sat there, afraid to look upward, lest I should be utterly cut off, and lest his fierce wrath should consume me. The minister rose in his pulpit and read his text, Look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God and there is none else. I looked at that moment. The grace of faith was vouchsafed to me in the selfsame instant, and now I think I can say with truth, ever since by faith I saw the stream his flowing wounds supply, redeeming love has been my theme, and shall be till I die.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. And film back through here. And for village where he preaches.
I'm standing in the pulpit looking down at the church. Bob Ross is sitting about where Pastor Spurgeon was sitting when he trusted Christ in 1850. The church is no longer a Methodist chapel as it was when Spurgeon came to Christ here, but is now Spurgeon Memorial Evangelical Church, and in the corner of the auditorium they have a baptistry. We're here looking at the registry of visitors to this chapel.
C.A. Paisley.
But there's actually probably several hundred.
Here we're looking on what Brother Ian Paisley from Belfast.
He said he entered this chapel many years ago when it was derelict and prayed that it would be reopened for the preaching of the gospel, which Spurgeon preached. Thank God for answered prayer.
Ian Paisley, Member of Parliament, Belfast.
That's the 1992.
His wife was there too, right under it.
24th verse. Loxley Boggs is signing the historical visitors record here. And I was just thinking, the Spurgeon Museum, if we can think of it as that, is spread out all over certain areas of England, and it's unspoiled by the commercialism which is associated with some other historical characters. In other words, you can go to these places and see the authentic, original places. You don't have to pay admission. You don't have to stand in line. You don't have to be approached by the souvenir sellers and hawkers. And so God has, in a way, protected these places that are associated with the life and conversion and ministry and death and so forth of Spurgeon, of much of the modern emphasis upon tourism. And if you know what you want to see and know where it's located, then you can go there and have the unhampered and unhindered, joy of being a tourist and seeing these places. And I think it's just quite remarkable.
Here's a picture of Teversham,
The little cottage.
a little cottage where C.H. Spurgeon preached his first sermon.
He was 16 years old, I believe.
It's hanging here in the back of the chapel.
Road turning off from Colchester, we're coming toward Cambridge, and we're going into the little village of Stambourne, very small, where Spurgeon lived with his grandparents in his early days in this area.
The village church in Stambourne, where Spurgeon's grandfather preached. This is a new building, but it stands on the very property with the cemetery in the background that dates back to the days when Spurgeon's grandfather pastored here. Bob and John looking at the grave sites.
this picture, what is this?
Yeah, right.
Birthplace, where he was buried in Colchester.
Yes.
This was when he was a man who lived with his grandfather. On the wall behind me,
Mm-hmm.
that's Spurgeon. Over there.
That's the same one that.
Get this man's name, so we'll. What is your name, sir?
My name, Hallwood. B-O-U. B-O-U-G-H-T. Cambridge.
North of Cambridge.
Yes.
And we're going to the Island Ferry where he was baptized.
Yes.
And so we're just making the whole tour.
Yeah. How long you over for then? How long you in the country for?
We've been here, this begins the second week. We're come with all the, see, it's my first time. Hey, we're getting the name now.
Yeah.
Here we're clearing off the markers for the grave of James Spurgeon and his wife Sarah.
We hope. This somewhat demonstrates, you might say, the lack of real interest that has been perpetuated in England by the people that remain here. Someone from the United States would have to come over and help clean off the debris that's accumulated on the tomb, the marker of the grave of Spurgeon's grandfather, James. And here we're going to get a brush and a broom in a minute and do that while he's studying the study. I'm going to check that out. That's probably one of the children.
It's probable that this one is the grave of James, along with his wife Sarah, and another of their children.
I think Sarah may have been one of them.
Okay.
We have cleaned off this grave marker somewhat, and we can make out Sarah, the beloved wife of James Spurgeon, and it looks like that she died, was it 1844? February the 13th, was it? And then below, it's got also of Reverend James Spurgeon, and when does it say he died?
He died in February 1864.
1864. Yeah, that's coming out. This little sign for the street here in the little village of Teversham commemorates the fact that C.H. Spurgeon once preached here. This is just outside the city of Cambridge. This is the area where Spurgeon preached his first sermon in a little cottage. The cottage is no longer here, but the village is still very much the same as it was in the past as far as size is concerned. This certainly is not the building where Spurgeon preached when he was in Teversham, but this does give you a semblance of the buildings that you see spread out over England, where the Church of England, as well, of course, as the Roman Catholic Church influence is still very strong. And here in this little village, this is probably the most formidable building in all the area. Now we're going to see a cottage here that is out of the past, and this is perhaps as close as we could find in the city of Teversham, or the village of Teversham, of the type of cottage wherein Spurgeon preached his first sermon, having walked several miles from Cambridge, where he was a teacher at the time in a school there, and this was where he delivered his first sermon on the text, "Unto you who believe, he is precious," out of Peter. We're in Cambridge. This shot is of the St. Andrew Street Baptist Church, where Spurgeon was, as a young man, was a Sunday school usher and teacher. It was from this church that he went out to Teversham along with another young man, and at Teversham is where he preached his first sermon. One of the famous Baptist pastors of this church is Robert Hall, who you can read about in the Most Baptist history. Interior of St. Andrew's Baptist Church in Cambridge. Spurgeon was at one time a member here as a young man. And this is in the university area right across from Emmanuel College. I'm not absolutely sure where Spurgeon was teaching here. I don't think it was in the university per se, but he was teaching when he was very young. And it was from this church that he was sent out to do a little service in Teversham, as we've said. That's where he preached his first sermon. This is a photo or a painting of Robert Hall, one of the famous Baptists of England. He was minister here at the St. Andrew's Baptist Church. This is an old original painting. I saw a reference to Gifford somewhere around here, and it rung a bell. There was a Gifford in Baptist history here in England.
Indeed there was.
Yes. By the way, this is the minister, Mr. Burks.
Hello there.
Here at St. Andrew's Baptist Church in Cambridge. Indiana.
This is the Bunyan window.
Nazarene type.
Okay, so holiness ministry,
yeah. They're all Wesleyan side of the fence theological.
Right. This chair is supposed to be used by William Carey at Serampore in the college in India, and it's been in the pulpit here at St. Andrew Street for quite a number of years. It might be better if we turn it the other way around because there's light coming through that window.
We're now looking at Cambridge University's Trinity College. On a beautiful and rare sunny day.
Of the car. That's the coat of arms right there for this college.
Where's the spire, though? Cambridge spire.
This area where we are is called the Backs because the River Cam, which we have in view here, runs alongside the back side of the university. Beautiful green.
Okay, we're back, and now as we continue this journey through Spurgeon's England, I'll have our Director of Pilgrim Publications, Bob L. Ross, give us a little more roadmap instruction.
And then we go to the Waterbeach area where he first pastored. Then we go to Islip where he was baptized, and you'll see the river, the very spot where Spurgeon was baptized. And a lot of interesting things here with regard to the early years of Spurgeon in this area of Cambridge. His conversion and his baptism and his first ministry and his first sermon and his first pastorate. All of this was in this area not too far from Cambridge of the famous university.
We're making our way toward the village of Waterbeach, where Spurgeon held his first pastorate.
It's north of Cambridge, about, just a few miles. Here's the sign.
One of the quaint houses here in the village of Waterbeach. We are at the town square here in the village of Waterbeach, looking for the church that was pastored by C.H. Spurgeon. Here, close to the village green, is the Spurgeon Baptist Church, or Waterbeach Baptist, which is Spurgeon's chapel.
Is this a Mr. or Miss?
I think.
Okay.
I'm ignorant, aren't I?
Do you go to church here?
No. We occupy what used to be the Sunday school building.
We have a much more respect and use for his sermons and so forth than it seems they have in England.
Yes.
We published his whole sermon set, 63 volumes.
Right.
And I've been looking forward to it.
You really have been all around, haven't you?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Heritage room.
Yeah.
With all the memorabilia displayed every time. But this, you see, was, he said when he came into this village, it was a village notorious for its drunkenness and profanity. I wonder how. But the old church building burned down. This was the old church.
Yeah.
Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get Bob telling this guy a story?
And this is the Crystal Palace.
Yep.
In London. We were down there, but it's all flat now. Nothing there. We eventually get this to the college. This is the college.
A little country lane out in the middle of the fields on our way to Islip, just north of Waterbeach. A rather impressive country villa.
Got the
Before us
sun.
here.
Got the sun.
Martha, they were telling us at the arena, you can Waterbeach.
Have you seen the Pan Lane?
Just met Nellie, that was killed, martyred here, Bishop, Archbishop Bishop.
I had a letter come this morning. They've
And you're
done
number,
a survey on
number
it.
2,
Haddon's Lane.
Houghton's Lane.
That's right.
Over at Pearl and Harry's, Harrington.
Zip code.
Wait a minute.
Postcode.
What about this one?
CB75SR.
Is that the same one?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So, 5SR.
Thoughts?
They would, wouldn't they? Some of them
Yeah.
be gone, wouldn't they?
This gentleman's probably in heaven. Here's some of the things. Metropolitan Tabernacle pulpit.
Oh, yes.
We published that. And here's the book by Mr. Hayden, Searchlight. Do you have any advice on? He wrote this little booklet.
Oh, I
so
see.
now we sell it to people who are coming over to visit.
Look. Oh, I
And
see.
there may be some of these have come back here because they saw shoulder.
We're out in the middle of the farm field here, trying to find the river in which C.H. Spurgeon was baptized. I'm in hopes we don't get stuck up.
We do, that's the end of it, believe me.
Especially in this rental car, and how we would get pulled out, I never know.
That pool, the old house.
There's an old house here to the right.
Well, what did she say to do next?
Well,
that's the question. I'm gonna get stuck here. That's
There's a ramshackle old house out in the middle of this field. Bob's making his way down alongside a small canal, and John's following him. We're here on the riverbank of the River Lark. Construction is going on right now at the spot where Spurgeon was baptized. Bob has found the marker, which was put here in 1972 or 73.
Is this the old ferry place?
Yeah, that is.
This is the Islam Ferry where Spurgeon was baptized. This monument commemorates that baptism. May 3rd, 1850. This was put here in 1973 by the Baptists in this area. And so we're more or less right on the spot where Spurgeon was baptized at the age of 15 when he walked out 8 miles to be baptized with W.W. Cantlow, a Baptist preacher in this area. Now they are doing construction work here, lifting the bank, making the bank higher for the River Lark. This is near the little town of Iceland.
Here we have the River Lark where C.H. Spurgeon was baptized. Became the first Baptist in his family. The very spot where he was baptized.
He died in 1892. Well, his books were published in 63 volumes of his sermons. And the American preachers read his sermons more than any other writer. And the American publishers published more of his books than any other writer. And printed. And this is a dream for me to come back and, see all this.
Where did you pick up the information
The light's not on.
then that this headstone was here?
We published this book.
Yeah, but where did you get the information from, though, for the start off?
Your light's not on, you know.
We have a picture in here of it. This was put here in 1973.
Right,
This was put here in 1973 by the Baptist Genesis.
You know your recording light isn't on, right?
Yes, it is. And we came to Iceland in Essex. We went to school in Colchester, Cambridge, and he preached in Waterbeach. You could go all over America and know about Spurgeon. If you give me one.
Boxley!
Boxley! Punch him!
Come him in the room. He
Excellent.
Yeah, I live right near the cathedral.
Well, see, you know, those things happen. I mean,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, hey, this man has lived here all his life.
Well, not all of it. I'm not dead yet.
He lived here. He's 50 years old. He lives right over here. And he didn't know about the marker until today.
Oh, he did? No, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, when we took the trees down the bay.
Oh. And so all these gentlemen have learned a little bit about what's in
that's
the
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was. I didn't know what it was.
I didn't know. 2 years ago when I was saying that.
I live less than 20 miles away.
Are any of you men church members of any church?
I'm a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm a good member, but I'm a Methodist. Really.
Methodist?
Yep.
Continuing in our review of Spurgeon's England, I'd like to have Bob tell us a little bit more.
Well, Larry, I would just like to say to those who are planning to go to England, if they want a few tips about where to go with respect to Spurgeon, we have a little booklet written by Eric Hayden called A Traveler's Guide to Spurgeon Country, and we followed this when we were there, and we got so many wonderful tips and helps from it that it was just an invaluable piece for us to have. And then if you want to get acquainted quickly with Spurgeon's life, my book, A Pictorial Biography of Spurgeon, will give you a lot of the details and a lot of the photographs of the places that you will want to possibly visit in and around London and other places that are associated with Spurgeon's life. So feel free to contact me at Pilgrim Publications, Box 66, Pasadena, Texas, 77501, and I'll be glad to help you in any way I can on any trips you might have planned. We do go to the cemetery again, and there we saw a funeral in progress, and we went back down to Spurgeon's College, and we went into the memorial room there, the heritage room, and possibly some of that might be of interest to them. There's a lot of things in there that you won't be able to appreciate because you're not up close, but we did take some video of the scenes there at Spurgeon's College.
All right.
For another look at the tomb of Charles Haddon Spurgeon. We were here last week, but it was really snowy and cold on that day. Mr. Spurgeon's grave is right here beside the new chapel that was built since his burial, and here we have it.
I explained to them inside there that just outside the door is the tomb of the greatest of Baptist preachers, and how lovely it was here to remember Fred, who'd been a humble lay preacher. And,
This is Pastor Ken Walker speaking. He's just held a funeral service here for a Baptist minister in this chapel at Norwood Cemetery, and we're standing in front of the Spurgeon Monument. And Reverend Walker is also the minister of the Beckenham Baptist Church, where J.J. Brown is a member, and Mr. Brown works at Spurgeon's College in charge of the Spurgeon Heritage Room. So it's quite coincidental that we met here, but we're glad we did.
Let's say providential, brother.
Well, it certainly is to me, because I've never been here before. I've been a pastor not far away for a long time, but I knew all about it. I've seen photographs of the tomb, but just came to take this particular funeral today. And I was explaining to the small company gathered with us that just outside the door is the tomb of the most famous of Baptist preachers, because the man who we were remembering today and giving thanks for, he'd been a Baptist lay preacher himself, and it's so wonderful to remember him, a humble lay preacher, with the tomb outside.
And then this beautiful sign that they have all the color, Royal Agricultural Hall, they preserved it. So we went to the front door and explained to the man at the gate and these.
They're cuttings in these.
Well, let's see. Is that
Cuttings.
the ones? There was something else.
Cuttings and letters. There's an absolute mess of stuff here.
All of these individual. These don't look like notebooks from Spurgeon's time.
No, they've been. This is what John Brown was working on.
Oh.
You see, these are new. Isn't this wonderful?
Yeah.
But I've never seen it expected, but
Heartedly welcome.
I don't know what that says. Something.
But right heartedly
heartily
welcome.
That's tremendous, isn't it?
C.H. Spurgeon. That's his actual writing. And who was this?
This is Lord Shaftesbury.
Lord Shaftesbury.
A very famous
Right.
Victorian.
Right.
It's tremendous. Look at these things. Little bits and pieces.
Yeah. Miss Poe, the librarian here at Spurgeon's College, has allowed me to take out one of these Spurgeon scrapbooks, which contains all kinds of miscellaneous clippings, photographs, letters, and just any of things of any and every description. And there's just several of these, like 3, 6, 9, at least 10 that I see here. And then we have others down here, newspaper clippings and periodicals that were collected of materials during Spurgeon's time, any time that the press had any reference to him. And it's quite amazing the amount of material that's here at Spurgeon's College just from this kind of collection, just clippings and handwritten notes and letters. It's just amazing. This is Miss Poe, the librarian here at Spurgeon's College. And would you describe just briefly what this is we're looking at here?
Right, well this scrapbook is one of 4 that have been recently prepared. We found a large scrapbook in a student bed store. It had been lying there for years and years, and we discovered it, and it has now been totally restored and is now in 4 parts. It consists of newspaper cuttings, photographs, letters from Spurgeon, letters to Mr. Spurgeon, and it is just a wonderful treasure as far as we're concerned.
And this house, Miss Poe, we visited this last week. It's still very much just like it is. Pulpit on the move. What does that mean?
Here we have the pulpit from the Methodist Chapel in Colchester, where C.H. Spurgeon was converted.
I think it's in the process of being moved to the college from Stockwell Orphanage, where it used to be on display.
Here we have the Spurgeon College. And the Spurgeon Heritage Room, containing his books and scrapbooks and other memorabilia of his ministry.
I hope you've enjoyed this tour through Spurgeon's England. This pilgrimage is one that I hope all of you will be able to take at some point when you happen to be traveling in Europe. Checking into these historical sites is always something that can be of interest, particularly in light of the revivals that centered around Spurgeon's life. Well, Bob, it's time for us to close now. Do you have any final comments on this program?
Well, Larry, my final comments are an invitation to the viewers that if they're ever in Pasadena, to come by Pilgrim Bookstore, where we're kindly headquartered, and I'll be glad to show them my photo album. I've had many people come by and have thumbed through this to see the pictures that we took in England. And of course, we're always happy to provide any of the literature that we have available about the trip, or any video that we have available on the thing. And if they will simply give me their name and address, I will send them my little story called the Parable of the Spurgeon Twig, and we will send them some other materials that we have printed that have to do with our trip. And those who are actually going, if they want any advice, why, I'd be glad to offer that at any time.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob. Bob L. Ross is Director of Pilgrim Publications. I'm Larry Wessels. Thank you again. Join us next week. God bless.
Check out our websites. BibleQuery.org. This site answers 7,700 Bible questions. HistoryCart.com. This site reveals early church history and doctrine, proving Roman Catholicism is not historically or doctrinally viable. MuslimHope.com. This site is a classic refutation of Islam, a counterfeit religion created by Muhammad. Free newsletters are also available.